Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? Let me know. Hello, am I audible? Can you confirm?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Let's start our discussion. I'm also trying to record on those who miss out. Maybe I'll upload on YouTube and you can watch it there in case those who miss out. So today we'll look at the main protocol that we use in the web today, the dominant protocol. Almost 90% traffic or 80% traffic is using HTTP. So as I said, there are few RFCs. Network is full of protocols and details. So here I given you a few requests for comments. So those who want to understand what really internet is, I suggest you go through RFC 1935. HTTP protocol per se is 2616, which was in use. Now I think more than 60% web uses HTTP 2.0, which is 7540. But as far as syllabus other concern is concerned, we'll mostly be using 2616 and the previous version 1.0. So I suggest you to go through those, read it, and improve your knowledge and understanding. So let's look at the web, how the web is different from other places. If you look at other places, it is kind of, let's say, TV, radio, newspaper. Somebody publishes a content. If it's a TV, you tune in a channel. If a program is coming at a particular time, let's say serial at 9 p.m., then you have to wait till 9 p.m. to watch that serial. Or tune in the channel, same is true for radio. You have limited channels, and there are few people, media houses or agencies that create the content. That is, and same is true for newspaper. So that means that's how they work. But on the web, if you look at, a user is free to get content any point in time. So there is no time restriction that you can't access Google from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. So web is available all the time. So it does not operate on demand. User doesn't have to tune particular channel to get it. In fact, each URL becomes a channel by itself. And with social media, each one of you can even create content and upload it. And if your content is popular, there will be a lot many people watching. If your content is not popular, then maybe you and sort of your friends. But web has become a great equalizer or enabler that everybody who can make a better content can become celebrity overnight, which wasn't the case with TV, radio, newspaper, and so many things. There are too many channels, millions of channels. You can access, get the information, access them anytime. And for TV and radio, you have a tuning button, remote control, which will change the channel. Same as radio, you change the channel. Here, you want to look at channel, Google it out. So Google becomes your navigation remote control to look for identify any channel. And as we said in 2005, with the onset of multimedia applications and their category called RIA, rich internet applications, web became more exciting because users became more engrossed, and we see that what is happening with that. The popular web server or the web where we work says we have a web browser. So most of us use either browser Chrome, Edge, or Firefox, or if you're on mobile phone, you have their own native browser, whatever you like to use that. Other hand, to search the content, you have web server. So most popular web server Apache, Nginx, IIX. Apache is the first one and that still has good market share. So I would suggest you to install it. Last time I told you to install Linux using VirtualBox. Install Apache. so that you can play and understand how HTTP works. And some of our assignments would require installing Apache and working with it. Of course, we know the web browsers. There's a command line browser called Lynx. There are also command line called wget and curl. So those who want to do really any development work dealing with web programming, understanding and knowing the tools wget and curl will be very, very useful. So get familiar with those. I'm not going to run any tutorial of how to make use of wget curl. Go to the main page, read the documentation, and then you would know how these work. The protocols that are most common is called the HTTP. HTTPS gives you security. There are extensions of web protocol, which are WebDAV, like when you say make a drive like OneDrive or G Drive or Dropbox, they basically make use of protocol called WebDAV, distributed authoring and version control. When you sync your contacts from phone to your website, they use protocol called CalDAV. And if you look at the calendar syncing, these are CalDAV. So these are extensions of the HTTP protocol, but we'll focus mostly on HTTP part, and that is what we'll look at. So the way web works, you look at a web page, you access it by a URL, and the URL contains in a web page. When you get back, it's just not a plain text file. It is a number of embedded objects. It may have the HTML file, JPEG images, applets, audio files, and all that. So if you look at the way URL is defined, it is defined like something like protocol HTTP, HTTPS, the two protocols. Then the host name. Now this host name is a private host name, so you may not be able to access that on the web, it was somebody else. Then URL part, there is a question mark, which is called query string, and fragment if you want to look at particular one. So basically you see it as 7 parts: protocol, host name, port number. By default, if you don't specify port name, for HTTP it is 80, for HTTPS it is 443, but there is no reason why you can't access HTTP and 443. You have to enable and do that part. So HTTP is if you don't specify, by default for HTTPS is 443, and by default for HTTP it is 80. If you don't specify the URL part, by default it is considered as index.html or index.php or something of that kind. The way the protocol works, you can look at a PC makes a request, you make HTTP request, pass on all the request parameters, and web server would give a response. And when PC browser gets the response, it displays the response on the Windows or browser terminal, something of that kind. Now, normally you find that it's being displayed, but better word would be rendering, because if it is an audio file, there's nothing called displaying an audio file. So you have to play the audio file so that sound comes out. So better term is rendering and not the display. Similarly, another user, another machine, web server doesn't really care whether it is a phone, iPad, laptop, desktop. All it cares is the protocol follows certain format. It is HTTP request. It must follow the HTTP format, and we'll discuss that shortly, and then it gives a response. And that's what the web server cares about. You can write your own client, and as long as you can follow the HTTP protocol, you should be fine. In fact, some of our assignments would involve writing a simple client and parsing the response from the web server. That's what a few assignments would be. So understand how the protocol works. That's the way we look at it. It's basically client-server model because browser is a client, makes request to the web server, and web server follows the protocol, get the response, and then browser makes the response. But if you're using a client like wget or curl, they only get the content and you have to deal with content, parse it, display it separately, and not through the browser or something. Because wget only fetches, doesn't display, whereas a browser fetches the content and displayed it as well. So it does both. So look at that part. HTTP uses underlying protocol TCP. As we said, review your data communication course for semester. You know the layering model. HTTP is application layer protocol. Underlying makes use of TCP, which we'll study much later. So client issues a connection on TCP connection. First TCP connection is set up, and once TCP connection is set up, only then HTTP message is sent on top of TCP connection. You get a response box, and then display would happen. Now you can either maintain the TCP connection, make a new HTTP request, or you can close the connection and be done with. In fact, today's browsers, and by default, we maintain a connection on and use single TCP connection to do multiple requests. And that is what is called HTTP persistent connection, and that we'll probably study in the next lecture. HTTP called stateless. Stateless meaning it doesn't maintain any information about the past actions. Stateless is much easier to implement because making it stateful makes it more complex to manage. If something goes wrong, if browser crashes or server crashes, you need to restore from the state, it becomes tougher. So let us look at what stateless really means. That basically means a server has no information what did client ask previously. If a web server if a web client asks for a page 100 times, is going to give a response 100 times, is not going to say, hey, I already served you, why are you asking again? So you want to just remember the simple example analogy of a stateless and stateful. Let's say I were to ask you your name. So when I ask Saurabh, what is your name? He'll say, sir, my name is Saurabh. I ask him again, what is your name? He's going to say again, so my name is Saurabh. If I ask fifth time, he's going to get irritated. I already told 5 times, so why is asking again and again? That means Saurabh remembers that the same person has asked the name 5 times, and that is called maintaining state. Whereas a web server doesn't maintain the state, any number of people ask for the same URL, they're going to get the same response back. Of course, for our e-commerce site, you want to maintain what shopping cart you have purchased, you want to maintain the information. So it enables maintaining a state through some other means called cookies. But from protocol perspective, it is called stateless, doesn't have to maintain the state. And that is what we look at. So the way protocol basically work is, it started with unofficially version 0.9, and I don't think this is there in your textbook. So first official version was 1.0, but HTTP 0.9 when it came in 1990 was the simplest. You simply give a URL and get the content back. There were no HTTP headers, no extra data. It was simple, just use your plain text or HTML file, get the content and display, and nothing more than that. But very soon we got version 1.0, and that became the first official standard. And it came with changes primarily in terms of header lines. You specify data, web server 1 gives a response. It basically says that is it HTML page, is it an image, is it something else? It basically gives that kind of information, and what time the page was created, when was it last modified, all those information, is the header basically gives you. Now request has something called request line. It tells you what protocol version I am following. Is it 1.0, 1.1, or 2.0? Similarly, when you give a response, it has another called status line, indicates is the response successful or unsuccessful or something else needs to be done, and that is what. And then they always have headers to describe those. We look at those request, status line, and header lines. Now, response doesn't have to be HTML file. It can be plain text file. It can even be a Word doc. It can be a PowerPoint. When you download a PowerPoint slide, it's basically a non-HTML file. Now, key difference between 1.0 and 1.1 is basically called TCP connection. In 1.0, connection is closed after a service request is served, and HTTP 1.0 is called non-persistent because TCP connection is closed. In 1.1, primary change was make persistent connection that use single TCP connection to serve multiple requests. Of course, there are other features, but I leave you to understand, explore by looking at the basics. The features like authentication, sometimes they ask you to log in using username password. Can you do caching for performance improvement or proxy server for again better performance? We'll look at all those details, multiple kind of date formats, and so on and so forth. As you said, 1.1, first standard was RFC 2068. Current RFC is 2616, and it was done somewhere in 1996, and since then it's continuing. Only about last 2 years, HTTP2, which is 7540, is started getting implemented, and I believe more than 60% web today makes up HTTP 2.0 because it is about 66% faster than your HTTP 1.0. But as part of course, we'll stick to HTTP 1.1. So recommend you to go through this RFC 2616 and understand about. It's basically good performance optimization on HTTP 1.0. One is the keep alive connections, that is persistent connections. So you can maintain, don't have overhead of setting up TCP connection again and again, which can take a lot of time. You can get chunk encoding. Normally the way web works, when you let's say download an image, it will display the image after the whole image is downloaded. And let's say download takes 20 seconds, then till 20 seconds the browser window would be empty. You may be thinking that net is down, something has gone wrong, but actually download is taking time. So other alternative is keep displaying image as and when you receive part of it, and that is what is called chunk encoding transfer, so that user can remain engaged. You can also request a specific byte range. For example, you want to just get byte number 10,000 to byte number 11,000 and not in between. So byte range is useful, and when specifically when you start with multimedia applications, downloading a movie, byte range become very useful because depending on the content, you can specify a particular segment of the video to play next. The caching mechanism pipeline is supported. That means you can make multiple requests without waiting for an answer, but this particular feature never really got used. You can do language negotiations. Let's say you prefer watching in Kannada or Hindi or English. You can specify in the header that my preferred language is Hindi or Kannada or English, and Google would give you the content in that language. In case if it doesn't support that language, it will still give you in the default language English. HTTP2 was a further performance improvement on HTTP1. It's again not part of our course, but those who are interested in understanding how the performance has improved, I will strongly suggest you to read the RFC, look at it, and then you understand what it means to have performance. So you can look at a site called spbn.co, high performance browser networking. Take first letter of that, HPBN, spbn.co, and that will basically give you the how HTTP performance improved over different using different mechanisms. So those who are interested in looking at HTTP performance, I strongly recommend you to go to that. So let's see if I can maybe show you. So you can see high performance browser networking. Those who are interested, they are about online available. You can read free. You have HTTP1 here. You have HTTP2 history. So I strongly recommend you to go through that book. That will help you knowledge, and this also will help you in your placements as well. Only thing that's happened is no protocol changes per se except the performance improvement part. So they had optimized how to deliver the headers rather than a fixed header every time, communicate the difference, and that's the only thing it does about it. So let us look at what an HTTP protocol is. Protocol is basically you have a request message and a response message. Now, all the data you get exchanges, in fact, in TCP IP network, if you look at all the application layers, Telnet, HTTP, SMTP, FTP, all the protocol commands are in clear text. That means the data what you send and receive as part of protocol message, it can be read by humans. And that's the meaning data is in clear text. Structure of both request and response is there is a message line, then you have a number of headers, then there is an empty line, and after the empty line, you have actual data if there is any data at all. So let us look at a request message. A request message would look something like this. The request message would be first is the request method called get. You specify the URL here, and then the protocol version HTTP 1 or 1.0, and then the other request methods called get, post, and these are all what you see is header lines. All these except encoding, except language, you specify the browser what is your language, and then it shows you. Please note each of the header line is separated by a CRLF called carriage return line feed character. Doesn't matter which Windows you are in, whether Linux, Mac, anything, protocol specifies that each line and each header line should be separated by carriage return line feed, and the empty line would be one where CRLF or carriage return line feed is the only character in that line. And if there is any data, normally request method does not have any data, but if you are doing a form posting, like fill up a form, then method uses post, or if you are uploading an image, then you're sending a data, so that will come after this carriage return line feed. So request is a request line, get, post, add other methods, then you have a number of headers, then the empty line, and then you have data if applicable. So if we look at the format is method, URL, version, method is get, post, add, whatever, URL is what you access, version, and these are the header fields, this is the empty line, and the entity body. So look at those, let me go to Chrome again. If you want to study really how the method looked like, I suggest you go to the developer tools, go to settings, go to more tools, select developer tools. Now you get developer tools here. Now click the network tab, which is already there. If I access any URL, let's say HTTP, you got the content, but here you can look at, I click on welcome.html. Now you see this is general request method, this is the request headers. If you do a view source, you actually see all the headers. You have a get, is the method, workshops, this is the URL part, protocol version is 1.1, host which server I'm trying to access, connection is keep alive, upgrade insecure means browser saying I would prefer to use HTTPS if possible, user agent indicating this is Macintosh using Mozilla, Apple WebKit. So if you're using a mobile phone, user agent will be different. So depending on which device, which browser you're using, this user agent would be different. And if a web server serves different content based on user device, sometimes when you're wondering, when I access Facebook on mobile phone versus on my iPad versus on my laptop, I get a different kind of look and feel. How does web server know that I'm using mobile phone versus I'm using laptop or iPad? It looks at this field called user agent and determines from there. Again, I said I can accept any kind of content, and this says my preferred language is English US, English, then Hindi, and so on. So if you change the order, if I were to make Hindi as a first preference, that you can do the preferred language setting, then you would see content would come in Hindi if a web server serves that part. So understand how to use web developer tools. Again, go to settings, more tools, web developer tool. Same way you can do Firefox. You can do in Firefox same way. Settings. So go to the web developer and I can click on network. It opens here. I can access anything. And then you can see things are getting here. All those details. And you can see all those details, whatever coming up. So you can look at your given KSIT has got so many images, is total about 167 objects, and total which is needed is 18.74 megabyte. So that is what is involved accessing a web page. You want to look at any headers, you can look at any HTML page or any image. So let's look at one of the images there. Let's say this is the image, and you can look at response headers, request headers, accept image web page, accept encoding, gzip compression, connection keep alive host. So once you know how to use web developer tools, it becomes a lot more easier for you to debug, analyze if something going wrong, and if so, what the request I'm making a mistake, that what to realize. Request line, header lines. If you send a header line which is new header which doesn't recognize by the server, a web server would simply ignore that header if it doesn't know. But format has to be correct. And format is you have a header field name followed by a colon and then the value and then CRLF. So look at the headers for the Chrome. You see header, DNT colon, host colon, connection colon. So header name, colon, and then the header value. So if your header colon is missing, then it becomes a bad request, and web server would basically give an error saying can't understand the request part. As an other method, if you're uploading a data, for example, filling a form, then it becomes post method. You can look at the method, access things up. I can give an example. So if I were to say, when you view source, when you develop a HTML page, you'll basically look at, define a method. So let me access that. Look at this, the for. When you say view post out, view page source, you see my submit method is get. Another form submit, method is get. But if I were to another form, so this page source method post. So if I were to make a submission here, let's say A, B, C, D, password is KSIT, I would do a submit. You'll basically see method being submitted, and you see there will be data there somewhere, form data, and this goes after the empty header lines request method is the data we send. So even though if you look at when I type username, I type password, it shows star star star, it is only for display purpose, but in the actual communication it goes a clear text, as you can see right from here. Just because it's displaying star does not mean it is encrypted and sent. It's only for display purpose it is started displayed, otherwise it goes in clear text. So you can look at those, access those, so I would suggest deploy your own web server, go to Apache, install those who install Linux, you can go into Linux machine and set up. All you need to do is sudo apt install Apache 2. Already installed it, so it will not do anything for me because I already installed it, but you can install it yourself and then it should be fine. Same way your response message, you can look at the response header. Here, this is the response header, all that. So I suggest you to play with it, see things up, and deal with that part. Other thing is MIME type. We'll study those when we deal with mail or something, but to differentiate between is it text or HTML or image or GIF, or it is MS Word or something. So it depends what you really do. Text plain versus text HTML. If it's a plain, you'll see whole HTML content, or text HTML, then it will actually display the file in the proper HTML display format, and there's the differences. You can access this from picture.html or the picture.text. I can probably show you that as well. You see, I'm seeing the actual web page, but if I were to put picture.html, so how does web browser know? You see the images, there is formatting it. It's determined by from a header type called your text HTML versus text plain. Understand those and you'll probably be better off. Other thing you need to study is called status code. There are 5 kinds of status code. One access is normally only information, says in request received. 2 access means success. 3 means redirection, that means user has to do some extra action. 4 access is client has made an error. 5 is server side error. And this example I can give you and look at this URL which gives you all the status code that you need to look at. Simple example 200, 301 moved, 400 means you made a bad request, 401 been authorized, 403 not accessible, 404 not found. So look at those methods and they would know. I can give a few examples and you can look at the status code different places, and they're minor. If let's say web server crashes, you write a program which crashes, then you get into trouble. So I would recommend you to look at the status code, play with it, install Apache server, and that is what it
Yes,
should
sir.
be. Yeah, any question please? If no questions, then I'll continue. So install Apache, deploy HTML pages, access it, and that is what you should be done. This is a nice diagram indicating all the 400 errors. I've given a URL. Look at this page, and you'll probably be comfortable it graphically saying what kind of author it means. This graphic, which is nice, gives you summarize. We look at few headers. We get into the details of when we deal with persistent connection and others, what we look at in these details, maybe some demo we look at, but again ask you to play with it, understand it. I will only talk about user agent. Keep live will discuss when you do persistent connection. Other things, I request you to go to the browser, change language settings and see, can you get this, the different language connections, and you will understand. So important type is one is content type, because that determines how browser should deal with content. Every other header could be optional, and that is what this basically means. To summarize, we looked at HTTP protocol, we looked at the URL structure, we look at HTTP headers, request and response, and we say methods, get, post. There are other methods as well, but you normally don't use them. And a status code, so you have to become familiar with those, like 200 means success, 30 means moved, 304 means not modified, and we'll get into those when we deal with caching. I'm also recording this lecture. Hopefully, if recording successful, I'll upload it and share the link with you guys as well. If any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I am done as far as lecture is concerned. If no questions, then I'll terminate this session. Thank you. Then you can drop out if no questions. You should be fine.